My grandfather, Carl Kraus, back in the early 1900s, around 1915, saw an opportunity to harvest ice out at Lake Marion. The lake was there and the necessity was there, so there wasn't electricity around, so there was no refrigeration as such. So they needed to refrigerate their food and their milk and everything. And in the winter, he was not working as a carpenter as much, and he saw the opportunity to harvest ice. First, they would cut it with like a big buzzsaw, and it was hooked up to. He had a Model A truck that they hooked it up to a truck, and they would cut it almost all the way through, except for about the last 2 inches, and that they would leave because they would want to walk on it. They didn't want it floating, and then the last couple inches they would cut with hand saws. And then they would load them onto basically a big sleigh that was made. And originally they used horse to pull the sleighs, and then they used trucks. And then they would haul it into town where he would store it in a barn. The barn was by McClintock's store, which is basically kind of behind where it'd be west of the VFW, basically in that area. There was a barn there that he rented, and then they would stack it in the barn, pack it all in sawdust. They had to take their time how they packed it, because that was the most important part, because if you didn't pack it tight and correctly, it wouldn't last as long. So they didn't want any air to get to it. Generally, once it started to warm up where people then needed it, in the winter obviously they wouldn't need as much, or they'd get their own, but in the summer months he would take it out of the barn, and depends on where it was going. One of the big account he had was with the creamery, and they had like box cars of butter going out of there almost daily that they had to supply ice to refrigerate the butter. And then he would also deliver it to saloons and also homes in town. And they would get the ice and put it on a wagon, and they'd go through town, and whoever, they'd have their accounts that they would stop, and he would, like for a home, he would stop and whatever she would want as far as size, he would cut that approximate size, and then he would dip it in ice or water to clean it off, and then try and get it to the right size so it would fit up in their ice box. And then they would bring him to inside the house and put it in the ice box for him. And also I was told that one big treat for the kids were they would chase the wagon around trying to get the slivers of ice that would fall off in the summer. That was kind of a treat for them, and he really enjoyed the kids coming around following the wagon around. I believe he was getting about 50 cents per 100 pounds of ice at that time, and the workers, they would get like $1 a day for their labor. So at that time it wasn't seemed like a lot of money, but it was actually to them. Vincent Wren made the sleighs that they used, and he also used some of his trucks later in the year when they used more trucks than horses. But Vincent helped Grandpa with that a lot, and he wasn't, they weren't in business together or anything like that, but they were just kind of partners working together. It was quite a necessity for a lot of people at then. You take it kind of for granted now, but then it was quite a complex thing just to get some ice, really, and a lot of work just to get a little to keep your food from rotting.